important, provided by the time tick features of the time management unit of operating system kernel. Time slice is kernel dependent and it varies in order of a few milliseconds to microseconds to millisecond. Round robin schedule ensures that every process gets a fixed amount of time in the CPU and CPU time for execution. When the process gets its fixed time for execution is determined by the first come first service. Means whatever the first process is getting into the system, that first this one task will be executed first. In that way, first come first serve is active working. And if the process terminates before the elapse of the time slice, the process releases the CPU voluntarily and the next process in the queue is scheduled for the execution by the scheduler. Here they have taken the example that 3 processes will be there and their estimated time execution is 6, 4 and 2 milliseconds repeated respectively, and enter the ready queue together in order P1, P2 and P3. Means P1 has got into the ready queue first, second is P2, third is P3, and calculate the waiting time and turnaround time for each process and average waiting time and turnaround time we have to find out. And in round robin algorithm with the time slice of 2 milliseconds, means time 2 milliseconds is given for execution of each and every task or process. Okay, here you can take an example P1, P2 and P3. P1 is having 6 milliseconds, P2 is 4, P3 is 2 milliseconds. Whatever the execution time it is, it won't be dependent on any scheduling here. Okay, the first program came is P1, it will start its execution. After 2 milliseconds, it has to preempt. Means program one, process one will be stopping its execution. It will go for the second process. Second process is P2 4 millisecond one. Okay, P2 will start its execution at the time P2 is starting. P2 will start its execution after 2 millisecond. P2 will stop its execution and then submit and go. Yeah, in second slot after the 2 millisecond, P2 will start its execution. After next to 2 millisecond, P2 will stop its execution and it will give the allotment for P3. P3 will start its execution for 2 millisecond. As the P3 is only for 2 millisecond execution, then it will complete its execution for 2 millisecond. After that, you will go once again to P1 because allotment of P1 is the first one. That's why P1 will start its execution and then P1 will execute for 2 more milliseconds and then it will exempt from the execution part, and then P2 will start its execution. After the 2 minutes, P2 process will complete its execution. Then once again go back to P1 and 2 more minutes to complete its execution. That is for your actual round robin scheduling. You can see here first P1 has started, next P2 and P3. 2 milliseconds it will take. After that once again P1 will start, P2 will start its execution and P3 already finished its execution here only. Then no need to repeat it. Then P2 completes its execution here and P1 will complete its execution here. The total amount of time taken to execute all these processes is 12 milliseconds. Okay. You can write the waiting time for all the process here. Like waiting time for P1 is 0 first. After that 6 minus 2. How you will take? See, here it has stopped. First process has execution has stopped here and then next it has start here. Starting time of the next slot of your process to the ending time of the previous lot of your same process. 6 minus 2 you have to take. And how many times it has been called? That many times you have to take here. Third time it is here. Here 10 from 10 millisecond it has started its execution but stopped at 8 millisecond. That's why 10 minus 8 and 6 minus 2 you have to take it as delay time. Okay, 6 minus 2 and 10 minus 8 totally 6 milliseconds. Waiting time for P1 is P2 is 2 millisecond. From 2 minus 0 is 2 only, and one more time it is executed here. That's why 8 minus 4 you will take it for P2. That's why 8 minus 4 and 2 minus 0 total is 6 millisecond. For P3 wait time is, you can see here, P3 started its execution from 4, that is 0 minus 4. You will be getting 4 millisecond. That's it. One more time you didn't call the process 3. Average waiting time you can take 6 plus 6 plus 4 divided by 3. 6 plus 6 plus 4 16 by 3 is 3.33 millisecond for average execution of your process. Okay. Here in the previous one also you can see in shortest time taken, it is having the average waiting time of 5.75. Okay, that compared to your round robin, the shortest time is taking too much of amount of time to execute. The average waiting time is more there. Average waiting time should be less always whenever you are executing the any process. Okay. Next we have round turnaround time. Turnaround time always you can take time spent in the ready queue and execution time. Execution time anyhow in the question only they have given 6, 4 and 2, and time spent in the ready queue is for waiting time. Okay, waiting time whatever the value is there that you have to take 6, 6 and 4. Totally you will 12, 10 and 6 you got 12 plus 10 plus 6 divided by 3, 28 by 3, totally 9.33 milliseconds. Okay. Next we have priority based scheduling. One second, guys. Yes, guys. In priority based scheduling, as I told you in previous classes, like short time first one and round robin and priority based. In priority based, always you will be taking the highest priority task into the mind first, and then you whatever the it will be in the ready queue, and also in the priority based only you will be allotting them which when it has to be executed. That is related to priority based scheduling. Okay. Priority based in this The priority-based preemptive scheduling ensures that a process with highest priority is serviced at the earliest compared to the other low priority process in the ready queue. See, whichever is having the highest priority, that will be executed first. That is the main thing in priority-based scheduling. When high priority process entering the ready queue is immediately scheduled for the execution. It will be immediately scheduled for execution. And the priority of the task or process can be indicated through various mechanisms. We have many different mechanisms. Okay, while creating the process or task, the priority can be at it. See, whenever you are creating the process only, you can give the priority number. That if it is having the highest priority, it will be allotted with the 0. Okay, and the priority value is 0. Then it is having the highest priority. This convention need not be universal, and it depends on a kernel level implementation of the priority structure. And whenever a new process enters the ready queue, the scheduler sorts the ready queue based on the priority and picks the process with the highest level of priority for the execution. Always, whenever all the processes will be in the ready queue, if you are getting the new process into the ready queue also, always it will sort it. Means whichever is having the highest priority, that will be given as a highest level of priority, and it will be given out for execution. In that way, it will be sorted. Next, priority-based scheduling. One example they have taken, P1, P2, P3 are estimated completion time with 10, 5 and 7 millisecond, and priorities of 1, 3 and 0. Okay, 0 is highest, 3 is the lowest priority, you can take it. And respectively, enters the ready queue together, and a new process P4 with the estimation time of 6 millisecond and priority of 0 enters in the ready queue. And after 5 millisecond of start of execution of P1, calculate wait time, turnaround time with respect to this. First, understand the question properly. How many processes are there? 4 processes are there. One second. Is it audible? Because it's giving some error in program, that's why. Yeah. First, understand that 4 processes are there. Hello, Pasha. Okay. 4 processes are there, P1, P2 and P3, P4. P1, P2, P3 have entered in the first level, and the priority levels of P1, P2 and P3 are different. P1 is having higher 1 priority, P3 is having the least priority, that is 3, P2 is having the middle priority. And they will be sorted in that way in the ready queue only. After completion of 5 milliseconds of P1 execution, you will get one more process into the ready queue, that is P4, and its execution time is 6 millisecond and with the priority 0. Okay, then you have to give the highest priority to the P4, and you have to stop the execution of P1 and start the execution of P4. That is the main thing in priority level execution. Okay, here you can see. First P1, P2, P3 in the ready queue at the 0 millisecond. P1 will be scheduled first because the priority is 1 here. Okay. And P1 is started its execution, and it will be after 5 millisecond. You will get the P4. That is the one more process got into your ready queue, but the priority is very high compared to all the other processes which are already present in your ready queue. Okay, P4 is scheduled and P1 is preempted. P1 will stop its execution and P4 will start its execution now. And then till the 6 millisecond, you can't interrupt that highest priority process. Okay, after the completion of this, and you will go for P1, once again it will go back to P1 because P1 is having the highest priority. After next 5 millisecond, it will complete its P1 process 1 execution. After that, it will go to P3 because P3 is having the highest priority compared to P2. That's why P3 will be starting its execution. And after the 7 millisecond, you will complete its P3's execution. Next, P2 will be starting its execution. That is the least priority process. Okay. Next, you can see priority based scheduling. Example, the execution sequence can be written. Here, P1 has started its execution. After 5 milliseconds, we got one more process, that is P4. That we have 6 millisecond is the execution time for P4. After completion of P4, P1 is the highest priority one. That's why P1 will be executing it remaining part of the process, that is 5 millisecond. After completion, P3 is the next highest priority value. It completes its execution in 7 millisecond. Then P2 will be having a least priority value and it will be executing in 5 millisecond value. Okay, and you can see a waiting time for the process 11 minus 6 is for 6 millisecond, that you can see here. 11 minus 6 minus 5 is 6 millisecond, and waiting time for P4 is 0 because it is having the highest priority. As and when it got into the ready queue, it will execute it. And P3 is 16 millisecond. It has started here only. And P2 is 23 millisecond. That is your waiting times. And you can see here waiting time for all the process 6 plus 0 plus 16 plus 23 divided by 4. 4 processes are there. Totally 11.25 millisecond is for waiting time. Turnaround time same. Delay time and execution time we can take and divide it by number of process. Totally you will be having 18.25 milliseconds. That is your priority based scheduling. Okay. Next we have task communication. In multitasking system, multiple tasks or processes run concurrently in pseudo parallelism, and each process may or may not interact between, and based on the degree of interaction, the process running on an OS operating system are classified as cooperating process, completing process. In cooperating process, one process requires the input from the other process to complete its execution. That's why it is called as cooperating process. Means one function is there, after the calling or after the execution of that function only you will be going for next process. For that reason, cooperating process will be working in that way. Then competing processes, the competing process do not share anything among themselves but share the system resources. Means two tasks are there, two processes are there, they won't be sharing any information in between. Means one task to another task you don't have any communication, but the resources, means the input are same for both the process or tasks. Okay, that is competing process. The competing processes compete for the system resources such as file, display devices, etc. Okay, that is for competing processes. Cooperating process exchanges information and communicate through the following methods. One is cooperation through sharing and cooperation through communication. Cooperation process exchange data through some shared resources. Whatever the shared resources, like your memory area will be there, shared memory area will be there. In that, through that you can access or you can exchange the data between one task to another task. That is the cooperation through sharing. Cooperation through communication is no data is shared between the processes, but they communicate for synchronization. After the completion of one task only, you have to execute another task, means they have to wait for each other. That's why they will communicate for the synchronization, only for synchronization, not for the sharing the data. That is cooperation through communication. Next is in task communication only. The mechanism through which the process or task communicate each other is known as inter-process or task communication. Whatever the process we have, communication between the task and process within your system, then it is called as a inter-process or inter-task communication. Inter-process communication is essential for process coordination. The various types of inter-process communication mechanisms adopted by process or kernel department or operating system department. And some of the important IPC mechanism adopted by various kernels are shared memory, that is pipes and memory mapped objects. Pipes and memory mapped objects, that is shared memory, message passing, message queue, mailbox and signaling, and remote procedure call and sockets. These are the three different type of mechanism to share the information from one task to another task. One by one we'll see. Shared memory, process shares some area of the memory to communicate among them. One process to another process, you will be having one shared memory. Through that, you will be sharing the data. Information to be communicated by the process is written to the shared memory area, and other process with which requires this information can read the same from the shared memory area. Different mechanisms are adopted by different kernels for implementing the adoption of your shared memory. One is for pipes and memory map objects. If we are going for pipes, pipes is a selection of shared memory used by the processors for communicating. Pipes follow the client server architecture. A process which creates the pipe is known as pipe server, and a process which connects to a pipe is known as pipe client. Okay. Means if I am taking any shared memory which is named as a pipe, means who create the process which creates that area is called as pipe server, and the process which connects to that pipe will become a pipe client. A pipe can be considered as an conduit for information flow and has two conceptual ends. And it can be unidirectional, allowing information flow in one direction, or bidirectional, allowing bidirectional information flow. It can flow in one direction also, it can flow in bidirection also. Okay. And in pipes, the unidirectional pipe allows the process connecting at one end and the pipe to write to the pipe, and the process connected to the other end will be only reading. It won't write any information to that pipe. That is unidirectional pipe. Whereas a bidirectional pipe allows both reading and write from both ends. Okay. And the implementation of pipes in operating system, Microsoft Windows supports two types of pipes for inter-process communication. One is anonymous pipes. That is, the anonymous pipes are unnamed unidirectional pipes used for data transfer between two processes. Named pipes are named unidirectional or bidirectional pipes for data exchange between the process. For only data exchange between the process, you can go for named pipes. And like anonymous pipes, the process which creates the named pipes is known as pipe server. If we are connecting it, then pipe client. With the named pipes, any process can act as both client and server, allowing point-to-point communication. Named pipes can be used for communicating between processes running on the same machine, or between the processes running on different machines connected to a network. Different machines, if you are connected to the same network, then also this will be useful. Next.